Hi, this is Zibby Owens, and you're listening to the award-winning podcast, Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. I'm also the host of Moms Don't Have Time to Lose Weight, and I'm the editor of the anthology, which you should run out and buy, called Moms Don't Have Time to, a Quarantine Anthology. All proceeds of that book go to COVID-19 vaccine research. And I'm the editor-in-chief of Moms Don't Have Time to Write, a new publication on Medium, and we're accepting submissions, so please send your personal essays there. And if all that isn't enough, you can follow me on Instagram at Zibby Owens, and my website is zibbyowens.com. Okay, now back to this amazing podcast. Listeners, if you enjoy this podcast, I promise you will love my new audiobook for Moms Don't Have Time to, a Quarantine Anthology. It's not about the quarantine, but a lot of the essays were written during that time about other things that moms don't have time to do or other busy people, things like reading, eating, working out, breathing, having sex, and 60 best-selling and notable authors wrote essays. All those authors have been on this very podcast. So if you like to listen to my conversations, if you want to get to know these authors better, I read the audiobook myself. Check it out on Audible, Moms Don't Have Time to, a Quarantine Anthology. Again, Audible, audiobook. Go listen to it. It's like 60 mini podcasts. I hope you enjoy. Diana Kupershmit is the author of Emma's Laughed, The Gift of Second Chances, a memoir. Diana holds a Master's of Social Work degree and works for the Department of Health in the Early Intervention Program, a federal entitlement program servicing children from birth to 3 with developmental delays and disabilities. Her published essays have appeared in the Huffington Post, Mother Magazine, Manifestation, Still Standing Magazine, Motherwell, and others. On the weekends, she indulges her creative passion working as a photographer, specializing in newborn, family, and maternity photography. She resides in New York City with her family. Welcome, Diana. Thank you so much for coming on Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books to discuss Emma's Laughed, The Gift of Second Chances, your memoir.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Diana, I know that we met at Zibby's Virtual Book Club, and I got to know you that way. And your book was so beautifully written. I mean, it was just, I'm so glad that we connected. The way you wrote your poignant, beautiful story, it was just amazing. So I don't know, bravo to you. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I know there was a lot of pain involved and a lot of emotion, and the story of your beautiful daughter, Emma, and how you took care of her and all of the stuff in her 18 years. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for your loss. And I'm just bowled over by this book. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy it touched you. And, I didn't set out to write the book. Obviously, I didn't aspire to write a book about losing a child, but I found myself in the wake of her passing, starting to write as a way of processing the grief and the loss and making sense and meaning of what happened and of the last 18 years. And I realized that I was grieving her for the second time, but in a bigger way and in a much more devastating way. Because when she was first born, I grieved her birth because she was born with a rare genetic condition that left her physically and intellectually disabled with myriad medical conditions. And I unraveled. I grieved the loss of the dream of a healthy child, and I grieved the life that she would never have and the life that we wouldn't have with her. And so I was not dealing well with the information. And here I am, a social worker myself, having worked with special needs kids, yet I did not think that I could do right by her, that I could give her the life that she deserved. And so when the hospital social worker broached the subject of alternatives to bringing her home, I did not storm out of the room. I stayed and we listened. And she offered that there are families that are willing to adopt special needs kids like Emma. And I was so overwhelmed with guilt and shame because I thought, well, if I don't think I can take care of my own child, like who would want that? Who would take that on themselves? And she said, some people have a calling in life. It's like the only way, she could explain it. And we went home and we talked, my husband and I talked about it, and we decided that if we were to find a good home for her, that we would give her up for adoption. And that's exactly what happened. We found this beautiful Jewish Orthodox family, and they had 3 Down syndrome adopted children, and they wanted a 4th child. And We gave her up. She was about 5 months old at that point. I was already pregnant with my son. And I told myself that this was a do-over. I wanted a do-over. And this new baby would be that, and I was going to get it right this time. And then things happened. I don't want to give too much away, but I'm home, pregnant with this big belly, thinking that I made a mistake, but not being able to do anything about it other than just talk to the adoptive family, because we had an open adoption. So we could, check in and see how she was doing. She was never doing well. She was in the hospital with pneumonia and RSV. And just as I was just as I was thinking that, we made a mistake, and I think I broached the subject with my husband, and he told me that he found some things out about the adoptive situation because he'd been visiting her behind my back in the adoptive home and in the hospital. And then that sort of, that was a life raft that he gave me with that information. And we found out that the conditions no longer existed. So we were able to bring her home, and she came home 5 months later, and I had instant twins and just life took off after that. And yeah, so I don't know. I'm saying too much, or
no, you're not saying too much. And you're so open in the book about just your complicated feelings about raising Emma, putting her up for adoption, the fact that you were at St. Luke's and like trying to pretend like you weren't going to give her up for adoption. And yet here you were dealing with these super complicated medical issues and having doctors ask you, oh, like you must be in the medical field. And you're like, no, I just have had to learn all this. And sort of the shame that you had when you admitted your feelings of, A, disappointment, B, sort of incompetence, right? Because all of a sudden you're asked, there were a lot of medical issues, right? Like feeding to gastroenterologists, like all, there was a lot, it's a lot of, anyway, your honesty and all the things and the self-doubt and your relationship with your husband and how you two dealt with it as a team. And like, it was just also real. And also I just wanted to maybe like read a few passages or a passage or two, because your writing style is just so beautiful. I had so many that I dog-eared here that now I can't decide which one to read. And now I'm wasting time. By the way, I wanted to know what happened with your sister, because that was like a big thing in the beginning of the book. And I feel like maybe I missed it, but I don't remember what happened at the end. How is she now? Like, what's the deal with her?
She's great. She's great. She's a mom of two. Yeah.
Excellent.
We're very close. Yeah. I think once you get older, sort of that age gap, that it kind of corrects itself, right? So we're like friends and sisters now versus like mother-daughter, which is not like a healthy relationship, but it worked for us at the time.
And the reason I'm asking, in the book, you described how you basically took her in, even though you were a sister, to be like a parent to her. And anyway, I was just always wondering what happened to her.
There's like themes of, rejection and acceptance and forgiveness in the book, and belonging, and there was a lot of that from the beginning, just in terms of me rejecting, accepting my sister, then rejecting her, me, our country of origin, Soviet Ukraine, rejecting us as, Jewish people, and then America accepting us, and then me rejecting Emma, and then there's a lot of those themes going on. So yeah.
Wow. Well, here's just one, and this is at the end, but you wrote, Emma was the fulcrum upon which I teetered. She was my perfectly imperfect child, my teacher, my sage, and I loved her more for it. She elevated to the surface my worst fears and perceived flaws and shed light on them so that they no longer had the power to possess me, to threaten my existence. By casting the focus on her care and well-being, Emma relieved me of the burden of self-obsession to be perfect and lead a perfect life. I was less a prisoner to others' judgment and no longer succumbed to the anxieties that so mercilessly plagued my psyche in years past. It was as if by taking on my pain, she freed me of my existential wounds, just as I had wanted to do for her all those times she hurt. Oh, so beautiful.
That time, like, who wrote that? That sounds so good when you read it.
Oh,
thank you.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you upset.
No, it's fine. It's great. Yeah. That's what Emma did for us. Well, for me,
I'm going to keep one more sentence.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because it's just so much. Emma helped me navigate the tangled pathways of my heart and rearranged it. From her, I learned that sometimes you find beauty where you least expected. In her, I found beauty and wisdom and grace. This little girl who in my youthful ignorance, I believe was broken, had healed me because it was me that was broken all along. Diana, this is like amazing. I'm about to cry myself.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh my God.
Thanks. Oh my gosh. I didn't expect to get emotional again. You think you shed enough tears. Yeah, that's what she did for us. And I'd like to think that the book is a love letter to her, because I made a mistake. I took a detour and I was given, the universe realigned and I was given this massive opportunity to make things right and to learn these important lessons and to, even though our story was very individual and personal, maybe somebody can glean some universal important message or value in it that they can benefit from, because everybody's lost, right? Everybody's grieved a person, a relationship, something. And I think that if I can touch people universally, if people can be healed by my story, our story, they can find solace. If you're a special needs parent raising a child with special needs, like I didn't seek out that community of parents, and I regret that. I used to say that, I had my village of family and friends and therapists and nurses, but I didn't want to belong to that community of special needs parents because I didn't want to live in the otherness. It struggled coming to America and belonging, assimilating into a new country and being accepted. I wanted to belong to the larger, typical world. And so I went about kind of creating a sense of normalcy for our life and our family. Everything had to be normal. We did the same things that everybody else did. And just going back to, the reasons why I rejected it. In the beginning, we were young and I kind of felt like, how could I, I felt morally bankrupt. Like, how could I give up my own child and a sick child for that? But then I realized that in those early stages, I bought into, the narrative that society feeds us that, people with disabilities live dark, tragic lives and they're to be pitied. And I just saw myself existing in that realm or in those margins with her. And I didn't want to be in that space. So I kind of excused myself and I thought somebody else, can do a better job. But then when she came back, she gave us, 2 short, but 18 years of silently teaching me those lessons because she was nonverbal, but she taught me to find my voice, in the advocating for her, and then learning that it was okay to advocate for myself and to ask for things that I needed. She helped me find my voice in her very silent way.
Oh. So how do you now pick up and just wake up each morning without this big, I felt that she had overtaken, not overtaken, that's the wrong word, but so there was so much focus. And of course you had so much focus on your other 2 kids as well, but on making sure things were okay. And always, for a while she was very stable, right? Her health got much more stable aside from little bouts with pneumonia and all these things but just even the cuddling of her and helping her through and getting all of her the services, everything taken care of. And now obviously you've poured yourself into this book, which is an amazing way to sort of cope and keep her memory alive, to be honest. What happens when you wake up in the morning? Is it the first thing you think about? Tell me about that.
Well, it's been 6 years since she passed, but she's with me every moment of she's on my screensaver. She's everywhere, and I feel her presence. I mean, I write in the book that I was able to spiritually connect with her because I went to a medium a month after she passed, and there were so many signs. And I just, I felt my husband and I, we were in different spectrums, ends of the spectrum in terms of belief. He's a devout scientist, and I'm a spiritual person. I believe that this can't be everything. This is not it, right? We are, spiritual beings, having, a physical human existence. And when I connected with Emma, with this medium, I just felt like, had I not connected with her, I would have thought that this is the end of the story. This is it. But then I realized that it's not the end of the story, and I had to write the story. So in the writing of it is when I came to terms with the fact that there's a story to be told that maybe somebody can benefit from. So the last 6 years, I've been learning to be a better writer, to be a writer. This is not my background. I'm I don't have a background in writing. I had to learn the craft, but I was that voracious kid, the teenager walking down the street from high school with a book in my hand reading. And then when I started writing, I realized I had to learn the craft. So that's what I've been doing for the last 5.5 years. And so she's always with me because I'm always talking about her or talking about the book. Now that the book is out, I'm getting a lot of wonderful feedback. And it's so nice to see that her story, our story, touches people. And that, in fact, what I started doing for selfish reasons, which was writing as the form of grieving and making sense, became something, selfless, hopefully that somebody can benefit from. I think, like Susan Shapiro tells her writing students, you take your worst experience and you make something beautiful out of it. And I hope that I did that without aspiring to it. I'm always making excuses and disclaimers and saying, I'm not a writer. I've just been playing one for the last 6 years. But, people point out that, you are what you do. And I wrote a lot of words. So.
Yes, you wrote a lot of words. And you are a beautiful writer, and you are absolutely a writer. And it doesn't matter when you start. I mean, I actually think there are a lot of non-practicing writers out there. I mean, because I feel like that's, I feel like there were many years I didn't write a word, but I always that's how I process things. It's how I feel like, and I feel like now I want to do some sort of study on what is it that makes some people writers and other people not? Because it's not the quality, it's not the quantity, it's just some sort of part of your personality that sees and records and wants to share it. Yeah. Audio, written, I don't know, but you are 100% a writer. And
thank you.
Just amazing.
I think it helps to be a reader, I think, in the writing process, because I'm such a perfectionist. And I'm if I'm going to write, even in high school and college, in my dark days when I would be going through some existential angst, I would keep a journal for a second, but I'd be so critical of what I was writing in my journal, as if somebody's going to read it and check my grammar, So when I started writing the book, I was if I'm going to do this, I have to do this right. So I took one workshop, then I took 10 workshops. And I had a lot of people, a lot of eyes on my work and a lot of feedback, a lot of, words in my ear. And this is a compilation of, many people's efforts. So, you see, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to write a book. And I'm so grateful for that, for that opportunity.
So literally 10 workshops, or are you just saying that?
I'm not just saying 10. That.
Wow.
I'm telling you.
Okay.
Yes. And I read many memoirs. That was 5 years of reading memoir and writing on the train and writing on this, reading on the Stairmaster. And I think I read somewhere there's a study that says when you're active, when you're moving, it sort of sparks, thought. And so I found that as I was on the Stairmaster, I was reading, I would get an idea and I would jot it down. And on the train, the same thing, something about the movement of the train, the motion, I would get inspired and I would read and write.
Huh. Yeah. I always read on the elliptical machine when I actually drag myself downstairs to the gym. But yeah,
right. Same.
I love doing that, and it's true. It does sometimes spark ideas. But that's, I would also love, by the way, I don't know if you even kept a list, but I love memoirs, and I would love to see your list of what you read the last few, when you did a deep dive into memoir, because it can be useful for other aspiring memoirists. I'm trying to write a memoir right now. And I'm how did you teach yourself to do this? You're
I heard.
Good.
Yeah. I have a list. I have a whole list. I could write up a list, but it must have been 50 is exaggerating. I read a good 30, I would say, in the last few years.
Maybe you could write a piece for Moms Don't Have Time to Write about how you taught yourself how to write a memoir, and then put the list in the article so that other people.
I will do that. I did a little. I did a little reel on Instagram about, a 30-second reel. So you want to write a memoir? What do you need to do?
Yeah, that's awesome.
You need to read. You need to write a workshop. Take a workshop, and etc.
Oh, I love that. I know. I just cannot master these reels. I feel like I just cannot get good at reels. I can't like go back and forwards. And I'm like, what did I already put? I don't know. I have trouble with Reels, but anyway, hats off.
You can figure it out. I'm technically very challenged. And if I'm able to figure it out, you can too. It takes a little bit. Yeah.
Not as intuitive. No, I can like build entire websites and I can do lots of stuff. This one seems to be eluding me, but anyway, I'll try again. Good. So are you still writing now? Like now that you have this skill?
I'm writing essays here and there. I just got a Huffington Post piece out, which I'm very proud of. It's like my first big byline, but I feel so depleted at this point, because I've been like sort of talking about the book, talking it up, marketing it. It feels like a very dirty kind of business. And, the subject matter that I'm talking about is a difficult one. So I'm looking forward to the day where I could just like put it down and just not write anything for a while, like not even a greeting card or a happy birthday card. Cause it's like you're opening a vein when you're writing. So, but I'm sure I will write something in the way of maybe essays or shorter pieces, and not a book. I don't think I have a book in me. I think this will be my, one hit wonder. If it's a hit, and it's a wonder. And I'm just happy to have it out in the world. And I just want to see people touched by it, and that would be the greatest gift of Emma's story.
Wow.
So yeah.
Amazing. Well, it's just so beautiful. And I really encourage everybody to read it and to get to know your daughter and your words. And yeah, it's very moving. And I have so much respect for you and all that you've been through in life and the way you've just kept going and sort of lived to tell the story and help other people. And, I know at the end you had a debate of how many kids should you say that you have, and that you'll always say you have 3 kids. And I just think that is the most beautiful sort of way to close the book. And the whole thing is just, my heart like goes out to you, and I wish I could like give you a hug. Not that you need it, but it's just amazing.
Maybe someday. We're neighbors, so maybe virtual hug now, but we can cross. I'm on the west side. You're on the east, so maybe one day. Okay. Yes, yeah. I hand delivered my art to you. Actually,
did you? I'm so much.
Yeah. Amazing. No. To the doorman.
Oh shoot! I wish I had met you. Well, I'm out of town now, but let's get together for sure. I would love to meet you in person.
Same, absolutely.
That's great. Yes. In-person hug.
Thank you. I know. Yeah. Thank you so much, Debbie.
Well, thank you for coming on. Thanks for coming to that book club and introducing yourself and all of that and making sure I didn't miss this special book.
Oh, so thank you so much. Thank you for your support. I'm just so honored to talk to you. This was lovely. Thank you.
Okay. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Zibby Owens and at Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. Also sign up for my newsletter at zibbyowens.com and sign up for my virtual book club and meet lots of authors on Zoom every other week. Thanks so much to Steve and Ryan at Texture Sound for the sound editing. And thank you to Morning Moon Productions for providing this fantastic intro and outro music.